I welcome to our meeting here in the chamber. And first of all, I want to take any apologies. So have we, Debbie?
Thanks, Chair. Councillor John Feely, Councillor Stephen Can, Councillor Poddy Kelly, Councillor Catherine Kelly, Councillor Anthony Feely and Councillor Marty McColgan.
Okay, thank you. And if we could just stick on lights there so that I can get the places, Victor.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I wasn't aware of any, but I see Councillor Irvine's absent, so I'll put an apology in for him. Thank you.
Okay, cheers. Paul?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Elliott, Councillor McMahon.
Okay, cheers, Paul. And none from the SLP. And Eddie?
Just Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Okay, thank you. That concludes all our apologies. Okay. We're going to confirm and sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 3rd of July. So for accuracy, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And can I have a proposer and seconder? Victor and Adam, thank you. Okay, matters arising. Oh yes, sorry, declarations of interest. None. Okay, we're going to take matters arising then. Page 1, 2, 3, Alice.
Thank you, Chair. Just item 6.2, Chair, to draw members' attention to the correspondence received from the Western Health and Social Care Trust. So it's item 2 in your other correspondence folder. This related to our various requests that are summarised in the minutes, but the Trust has advised it's not possible to provide a breakdown of details of patients who travel by their own means. That was something that Councillor had raised concern. Similarly, provided some clarity in relation to the consultant surgeon's appointments. The detailed response, Chair, paragraph C, in relation to whether or not the temporary change regarding emergency general surgical services is in fact a permanent change. The assurance that the Council had sought regarding patients who have already waited at SWA A&E on their way to and then go to Altnagelvin and have a second wait. Detail regarding the SWA overnight elective, and this has been proposed for a future meeting of the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee.
Okay, thanks, Alison. Okay. Anna?
Thank you, yes, and I note that letter from the Chief Executive. Just on the point of the number of patients transferring under their own means, could we request, I propose that we request that the Trust does provide that information on an ongoing basis, that they do detail that we can in future know how many of the patients from this district are having to go under their own means. And possibly on a rolling, as was suggested at the last meeting, on a rolling basis, that information coming to us, please, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, you propose that. Thanks, Diana. Anne-Marie?
Yes, if Councillor Armstrong doesn't mind, maybe also ask not only if those who travel by their own means, but those who are travelling via ambulance from their home, because there's a difference, and those differences can be flawed in details. So I perceive that whilst the Trust may give transfers from hospital, the protocols has been changed, as we all know, with Newry and Mourne and down here for the ambulance service and for GPs and everything else. So there would be incidents, I would say, that would be for actually correct if all patients going from this area down to the A&E department might be better, whether it's via own car or via other means of transport.
Diana's happy enough with that. Are you happy enough to second, Emery?
Happy enough, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Adam?
Thank you, Chair, and I think it's a good proposal from Councillor Armstrong there. I do think that they need to look at a procedure for working out if these patients, because they've said they can't work out if the patients come from, well, transferred under their own power instead of going to SWAD, they've bypassed it to Dalton Galvin. So maybe in the letter, if Diana would be willing to include it, would be maybe to request that they implement some sort of system of recording this, because I would imagine they probably have no system of recording it. I've never went to A&E and I've been asked where have I travelled from today. It could be a simple question during triage, but to look at how they could implement that in a fairly non-invasive way as well, because especially if you're going in, you're not well, you don't want to be probed too much with pointless questions to a degree. So something short and simple, but thank you, Chair.
And I'm sure Diana and Maria are happy enough that's included. Yep. Yep. Okay. Eddie?
Thanks, Chair. It's just to come from a practical point of view in that working in a GP surgery, we can see how many patients in the past 7 days from your surgery have attended A&E. So they have the ability to segregate patients via GP surgery. Very easy to pick out the surgeries in our area that would maybe normally have gone to Southwest Acute Hospital. So it would be a relatively straightforward piece of data to pick up in that sense.
Okay, it's good to know. So we have it proposed and seconded with those, with that addition in there. Are we all agreed? Okay, excellent.
Chair, then just at the bottom of page 3 onto the top of page 4 to highlight the letter received from the Department of Health. So this was the further correspondence regarding the comparative position of activity pre-COVID and post-COVID, which is provided, but the Council had also requested a monthly rolling update regarding adult daycare and short breaks activity, and the Department has advised they're not in a position to provide that information to us given the resource implications that this would present to them.
Okay, Mark?
Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to note the correspondence, as disappointing as it is, really. And I suppose really that letter sums up exactly or perfectly why so many families and so many service users and people who work with service users are still so frustrated with the trust in terms of access to adult day breaks. I mean, this has been a problem. It has been an ongoing problem from the onset of COVID, and there's no excuse for it not to have been resolved by now, because whenever I look back to the SDP, the service delivery plan for each of the trusts, they were set a clear target that they needed to be at 100% of pre-COVID activity levels. So that's February 2020. So I said in the last meeting, 100% of those levels by, I think it was September or October last year. Now, we're a long way on from that point. If they're still only at 85%, then frankly, it's not really good enough. And I don't agree with the department's assessment that they're not able to provide rolling updates. They claimed that whenever the previous minister asked for rolling updates, he was given that same line and he rejected it. And he said, no, I want rolling updates. And suddenly they were able to provide quite frequent rolling updates. So if I could make a proposal that we write this time to the Western Trust, because they will be the data holders, and ask, fair enough, if a monthly rolling update is difficult, we know for a fact, because they record it through their quarterly performance reports, if we as this council can request a rolling update of their quarterly activity levels for adult daycare. I can make that as a proposal, Chair.
Yep, okay. Thanks, Mark. And Adam?
Thank you, Chair. And like Mark, I find it difficult to believe that they don't have these stats somewhere on a monthly basis. But he proposed exactly what I was going to propose, that rather than a monthly update, they do provide the figures quarterly, but that they update us on that on a rolling quarterly basis. And happy to second that, Chair.
Okay, are we all agreed, members? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So midway down then, page 4. Just to highlight, members, this again corresponds in your other folder, item number 1, and this is a response from the Department for Business and Trade. Now, this related to the June discussions. We did have subsequent discussions in July. And this is obviously about the forthcoming investment summit, which I note was also referenced in the informal meeting with Invest Northern Ireland yesterday, Chair. So it's really just some general information about it, some specifics about some of the invited guests. We have followed up with the separate actions that were agreed earlier this month, Chair, and we're awaiting a response to those.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Yeah, Cahirley, Gora Meagad. We had a very productive meeting, you might say, useful meeting with Invest NI just yesterday, an informal meeting. And so it's obviously relevant then to 6.4, isn't that right, Chair?
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously we discussed a number of issues, including the investment summit, you know, seeking that local businesses are properly showcased. And the whole theme of regional imbalance, you know, the fixation with Greater Belfast area on the part of Invest NI, you know, historically, that needs to be remedied, and that there needs to be greater inclusion and greater focus on the part of Invest NI on this council area and west of the Ban. That featured across many themes at the meeting yesterday. The Lions review, different things were discussed, but Mel Chittick was there. He's the interim chief executive of Invest. But one issue that I raised at the meeting was the availability of industrial land in Omagh. And I think if we could I propose that we write to Mel Chittick, just seeking the position in writing regarding the future role of Invest NI in respect of developing industrial land. In the context of Enniskillen, we know that the Cairn Business Park does have some additional capacity for the future, but in Omagh, the land that has been earmarked for industry, the topography of it is such at Duggery East that it's on a steep embankment and there's pylons there. So effectively there is no available industrial land in Omagh, and it's to seek clarity about the separate review that they're undertaking about their future role, and perhaps there could be a role in the future for councils in this matter, but just to get that exactly clarified in writing, I would propose accordingly, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Barry. And Seamus?
Thank you, and thanks, Chair, for letting me in. It's just in relation to the meeting we had yesterday with Invest NI. I was slightly more pessimistic after the meeting than maybe some of the other councillors. I didn't get any sense that Invest NI had any solutions of how they were going to redress the regional imbalance. I found that almost anything that suggestions or criticisms we had of them, they were almost defending their position and explaining to us why they couldn't do anything. I didn't hear many suggestions of how they could redress the imbalance. So I came away from the meeting not very optimistic at all. I just note, and I know this is not Invest NI, but I just note on the railway strategy that came out today that Fermanagh is the only county that isn't going to get 1 inch of railway track going by this new strategy. It's just symptomatic of the whole situation. I don't know whether Fermanagh and Omagh or Fermanagh is the invisible county to these people or not, but it seemed to be that way even yesterday. Any suggestion that was made or any criticism, it was explaining why they couldn't do things. Again, like the railways, they can't put them into Fermanagh for some reason, but literally every other county in Ireland has a railway track going through it. But Fermanagh isn't even when it's only on paper, it's not even on paper for Fermanagh. So there you are. I think that sums up where we're coming from central government and from central government agencies.
John?
Chair, again, not often I agree with Seamus, but I'm a bit pessimistic about what we heard yesterday as well. I mean, they're going to take on board the needs of this district. But whether they actually do anything about it, that's yet to be seen, and they have a long path to go to prove all that. As for Seamus is encountered with the railways, I did warn a couple of years ago, whenever this started, that Fermanagh was going to be left out, and it's because our population doesn't seem to grow, which is the thing that Invest NI couldn't take on board, the amount of people that we have leave this district to seek employment. And maybe if there was a train, they might stay and travel, but that's another thing. I'm going to second Barry's proposal as well. Omagh is a place where there's a lot of industry looking to set up there, and the people from Fermanagh are quite happy to travel, unfortunately. So I'll second that.
Cheers. Thanks, John. Josephine?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, yes, I think the meeting with Invest NI yesterday was very informative, and I hope that it will deliver some dividends for our council area. And I certainly think that Mel was off a mind to ensure that any regional disparities would be addressed during his period of tenure as interim Chief Executive Officer of Invest NI. With respect to the upcoming investment conference in the autumn, I mean, I think the government is hoping to attract 150 major companies to that conference. And members will recall President Biden, when he was speaking a number of months ago, did say that there were scores of American companies who wanted to come and invest in Northern Ireland. One of the issues that we discussed at the informal meeting yesterday was the possibility of setting up major financial services in our district council area. There are a few such companies in Belfast and one in Newry, I think. But certainly we could be doing with something of that nature in this region. The Irish government have profited to the tune of £2 billion since 2001 in terms of investment in financial services. And if they can do it, why can we not? Particularly with the benefits that the Windsor framework will bring, we hope. So I think that as a council, conscious of the need to promote economic development in our council area, that we should push really hard and really keep a watching brief on this area. Let's see what comes out of the September investment conference. Let's see what promises Invest NI can deliver on, and just let's keep pushing on with this, because a lot is at stake, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Josephine. And are we all agreed with Barry's proposed letter, seconded by John? Yeah. And I suppose just to finish up on that meeting with Invest NI, we did, on my proposal to Mel, elicit out of them an agreement to give a rolling update every sort of 3 months on what approaches has been made to Invest NI that could and has been earmarked for the Fermanagh region. So hopefully that they also majored on the fact that we had very low unemployment and so forth, but it was pointed out that an awful lot of our youngest and brightest are heading off to other shores. That's one of the reasons anyway. But also that what we could do as a council to further showcase our council area for potential investors. So there is some positives there that could be taken out of it, but I think, as Josephine says, we'll wait and see what the next sort of 6 months bring us under Mel's tenure. Okay, anything else on 4? 5? 6? 6, Mark?
Thank you, Chair. And it was a point I was actually going to raise under matters arising for the last Policy and Resources Committee, but just looking at this now, I think it's as relevant here as would be there. And I suppose it'll not be new to some in the council to hear that I've generally, from getting elected a couple of months ago, I've had some concerns about the level of involvement and oversight that the councillors have with some of the day-to-day decisions and workings of the council. And I'm only going to raise one issue tonight, and it's related to, just to keep it related to matters rising, it's related to 12.1. And this, of course, is the ongoing issue of the fireworks in Enniskillen and Omagh. I understand, I absolutely understand that the council finds itself in a very difficult financial situation. But equally, whenever I look back at last year's accounts, the 22-23 accounts, I see a council that raised significantly more than it expected to, spent significantly less than it had planned to. So whilst we're still in a very difficult financial position, and I understand the council were spending more than we've probably ever spent, and with everything that's going on at Stormont or not going on at Stormont, there's probably less money coming down from Stormont than or there is less money coming down from Stormont than we'd expect. But nonetheless, I mean, we're either here as councillors to represent the ratepayers or we're not. So I would like to make a formal proposal tonight, Chair, that we reinstate the fireworks, the Halloween fireworks for Enniskillen and Omagh for the 31st of October, whatever date it had been planned. Because I mean, whenever I look at that, again, I go back to the circumstances of we're either here to listen to the ratepayers or we're not. This is evidently an issue that has caught the attention of people out there. Whenever I look at the costs, it's £30,000 to £40,000 for the two fireworks displays. £30,000 to £40,000 is a lot of money, yes, but in a council that spends over £50 million a year, that raises, this year is likely to raise £40 million in rates, and as I say, raised a lot more in rates last year than we had planned. 30 to 40,000 is a small investment if it gives kids or if it gives families with kids, and I declare an interest as one with two kids who would love to see the fireworks, as would many other people in this borough. But so as I say, it's a small investment to make. It would be good for the town, it would be good for the council, it would be good for the economy locally. So I would like to formally raise that as a proposal tonight, Chair.
Okay. I'm going to ask Alison just to.
I don't know if you wish to take a second. I'm happy. Yes, it's not feasible, Chair. The lead-in period that's required, and the council has made a decision around it. So certainly in relation to it, and I appreciate the comments Councillor Ovens has made. Obviously, if the council wishes to make provision for the next financial year, they can do so. But we don't have the technical capacity to do it, the procurement capacity to do it, and therefore it's not something that we can arrange this year.
Okay, bearing that in mind, Roy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy to second Councillor Ovens' proposal there.
But there's no point. You've just heard
Well,
that.
just to put it on record.
Okay, that's fair enough. But I can't take it as a.
No, I appreciate that.
Okay, Mark, don't make a habit, but.
No, it's just, I mean, for clarity, I mean, we're on the 25th of July and Halloween is not until the 31st of October. How is it not feasible to have a fireworks display 4 months from now, over 4 months from now? How? I mean, I can't understand that. I mean, this council can spend money on rusty flower pots. It can spend money on things that this council shouldn't be spending money on constantly and getting all the criticism for that. But yet, whenever we make a reasonable proposal, and again, I've talked about the cost, the 30 to 40,000. If it's coming down to cost, we can save money by looking at how we do it in Omagh with the expensive road closures. This is 30 to 40,000 pounds in a 50 million pounds organisation. I cannot understand how 4 months is not long enough to make a decision like this.
Okay, you've asked the question, Alison.
Chair, I appreciate Councillor Ovens' comments. I mean, I think there are a couple of points maybe I would say. I don't know if there's just a general inference around decisions the council has taken and spend we have undertaken. In terms of the procurement associated with the fireworks, it's traditionally, I'll defer certainly to John, but my understanding is it normally about a 6-month process in terms of the procurement, the associated licensing and the arrangements that we require. I do appreciate there are different matters in relation to fireworks, different views expressed. There is an opportunity for the council to revisit this for the October 24. We cannot deliver it for October 23.
Okay, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. Just a brief contribution on this, and I appreciate obviously everything Alison has said there. It does make sense. Obviously, we need significant lead-in time to organise something to get through all the procurement hoops we have to. But just to make it clear that and I appreciate Councillor Ovens wasn't on the council at the time, but the decision was taken as part of the estimates, which the Ulster Unionist Party grouping in their entirety supported, i.e. they supported not going ahead with the fireworks. So we just need to be careful here about trying to maybe play politics and score a point when a position was backed less than 6 months ago and now is being changed
Okay.
for publicity's sake potentially. But thank you, Chair.
Okay. Victor?
Thank you. Councillor Gannon seems to be obsessed anytime we ever make any suggestions that we're doing it for publicity or for political purposes. I can assure him that Councillor Ovins's proposal tonight was genuine, and certainly we were not doing it for any other reason apart from that. He's saying that we proposed and seconded the party seconded the estimates back in February. That is probably correct, but the fireworks, from my memory, we proposed them in bulk. There was no individual proposals on certain items. It was all done collectively. So I'd just like to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay. It's been given a good airing, so I'm moving along. Anything else on 6, 7? All right.
For Councillor McAdoo, Chair, just a few items of correspondence linked to the recently adopted motion by the Council. Firstly, the Education Authority welcoming the motion and also advising the Council may wish to invite some school principals, youth group leaders to the proposed meeting. The Department of Health also welcoming, indicating they would be in attendance and suggesting that given the environmental linkages, we may wish also to seek representation from DAERA. And finally, just in the other folder again, Chair, from the Department of Education in relation to their support and willingness to engage in the discussion.
Okay, thanks, Alison. All right.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just to thank everybody again for supporting the motion at the last meeting. You know, there was unanimous support for the motion, and we're heading towards a round table, almost conference style meeting on this, you know, which might be hybrid in character and format, you know, to facilitate maximum participation. But as the Chief Executive has said, you know, we're having very good responses. I was talking to Roisin here to me, right, just about it as well, and she too was pleased with the positivity of the responses from the following bodies: from Education Authority, EA saying, yes, we're going to participate, and then the specific suggestions and specific nominations of relevant officers who are doing work in this area, you know, at this time. They've talked about the Curriculum Council, CCEA, Cancer Focus, PHA, and Cynthia Curry signed off on that, which is good. Then the Department of Health, early in the letter, they say that they share our concerns, and there's ongoing research, and they've identified their Head of Health Improvement Policy Branch, Brian Dooley, as a possible attendee, and made that helpful suggestion regarding DAERA, because the disposal of these vapes in the street and in the roadway and on the footpaths, again, our emphasis is on children and young people. You know, some people make the argument that adults who are trying to stop smoking, this might be a path out of smoking for them. So I'm not going to be a scientist and contest that space. The space we're moving into is trying to help children and young people not to take on vaping early in their lives. And then finally, it's interesting to see the letter from the Department of Education detailing where this is relevant in both the primary and post-primary curriculum. So I'll leave it at that. We've got good, sensible suggestions and positive engagement from those bodies, and we'll have more. But I think this is shaping up to be a very important, you know, with wider significance even for the region and beyond, a focus on the damaging effects of vaping on children and young people. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Are you happy to note the
proposed note? Yep.
Thank you. And I'm going to look for a seconder. Paul, thank you. And it's good to see that there is such interest there to a very worthwhile cause. So hopefully that will pan out in due course. Okay, anything else on 8 and 9? Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move on to Environmental Services Committee, and that was on Tuesday, the 4th of July. So for accuracy first, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a proposer, and that would be Debbie. You're proposing. Thank you. And Roy is seconding. Okay, and we'll go to matters arising, page 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. And we're going on to the minutes of Regeneration and Community Committee, and that was Wednesday, 5th of July. So for accuracy, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Mark isn't here, so if we have somebody else that wants to propose. Diana, thank you. And a seconder, Glenn. Okay, thank you. And matters arising, page 1, 2, 3. Seamus?
I just wanted to mention about the cost of living that's been provided. I am delighted to see that this is continuing on this year. There are so many people out there in need of help, and I'm delighted to see that this is coming through the council again. It was a brilliant project last year and helped so many people. It from schools to families in need, food banks, too many to mention. And so I'm just to say that I'm delighted to see it gone through again, and hopefully it will be equally helpful to the people in need this year, of which there is even more with the cost of living, and it doesn't seem to be any end. And as everyone knows that goes to the supermarket or that to do a shop, it seems to go up every time you go to the till. So I'm delighted to see this.
And Seamus, I think this is an opportune time as any to bring in your what you wanted to raise under any other business.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, it was just in relation to the £600 energy payment that was provided. There was a deadline date of I think the 30th of June. But I know a number of people that still hasn't received it, even though they had contacted the energy company months in advance of that deadline, but still hadn't been paid. So I'm wondering, is there anything that we can do to write to the government department in England? Just off the top of my head, I can't think of the minister. I think it's a lady that's over that department, but I'm sure the council could find that out. I think the department actually changed, it split up since that, but maybe we could write and just ask, is there anything in place for people that had contacted these energy companies, were waiting on payment for months, and then the deadline has finished and now it seems to be that's it. So my proposal would be to write a letter to whoever is over that scheme and see is there anything that can be done for these people, because it is a vital few pounds, because the cost of living crisis just isn't easing up on people, and especially people that hasn't even prevailed of this £600. So I'm proposing that, and thanks, Chair.
Okay, and have I a seconder? Debbie, are we all agreed there? Okay, thank you. Anything else on 3? 4? 5? 6? 7? 8? 9? And 10? Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the minutes of Policy and Resources Committee, and that was on Thursday, 6th of July. For accuracy, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 mark for accuracy,
Sorry, matters.
5, 6, 7, and in the absence of Stephen, we have proposer and seconder, Mark proposing, and Eddie seconding. Thank you. Yep. And matters arising, page 1, 2. All right.
Just wondering if any other business item on a consultation, might be relevant to bring here and here, because we're looking back at the P&R remit for consultations. So,
Yep, I'm happy enough with that, Barry. Away you go.
thank you. It's to do with the DFA, the Department for Infrastructure's consultation on proposed changes to the department's policy on free and discounted public transport fares. With concerns locally, of course, we have about rural transport, and we continue to express them to DFA and others. But in relation to, for example, 60 and over age for Smart Pass entitlement, there is a consultation which could result in the age being increased to 65 or 65 plus. That's one of the options, one of the significant options in the consultation. And then it might have implications as well for carers who accompany people. It could have implications for people with disabilities. So really what I'm saying is, and if this is if there's a distinction between responding to consultations and officer-led, response to consultations, can we give this the maximum attention as a council? I think it's the 24th of August is the deadline. So, it's a bad time of year, isn't it, for a consultation deadline, during the summer holidays. So organisations like SWAP, Southwest Aging Partnership, will have been doing work on this as well, but I would maybe seek advice from the Chief Executive as to how we could mobilise or energise responses to this consultation from local people in the next 4 to 5 weeks, so that the voice is heard. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Barry.
Hey, Chair, I think a couple of aspects if Councillor McElduff was content. So I suppose firstly, in terms of the council itself making a consultation response in advance of the deadline, maybe if I could ask if members have any particular ideas or views, suggestions, we can put them through to Policy and Strategic Services, and we can also engage with the networks that have been mentioned. We can, on our own social media and our other feeds, maybe encourage and advocate a response to it, and we can certainly circulate a draft in advance of the 24th. That would be the norm, but if the resolution this evening, Chair, is that we do proceed to make a consultation response, I would just invite members to put as much feedback as they can, and we'll certainly do as much as we can in the period. I think it is unfortunate, as Councillor McElduff has indicated, that this falls over the summer months, and it may miss some of the other network organisations, and perhaps as part of the decision this evening, you may also wish to consider, members, that we would write to the department seeking an additional, I think it's only 8 weeks, an additional 4 weeks consultation, so that it would actually go beyond the summer months, but we will work to the original deadline.
Thank you, and I'm happy to incorporate that into my proposal. Thanks very much. The extension of the consultation by 4 weeks.
Okay. Josephine?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and my thanks to Councillor Michael Duff for bringing up this issue and for Alison on her clarification. Chair, I think most members will agree that this proposal, which is currently out to consultation, to vary the age at which older people can avail of free public transportation, is something that we should resist vehemently. Older people have had the opportunity of availing of free public transport, and that means a lot. It means a great deal to people. And any proposal to increase the eligibility age to 65 or even more is totally unacceptable in my view. I think for those people who anticipate receipt of their smart passes at the age of 60, I think it is extremely unfair to them. We have had great benefits in terms of allowing older people to use public transportation without worries regarding the cost. And we all know, Chair, the high cost of public transportation. So yes, I would second Councillor Michael Duff's proposal and also the proposal to extend the consultation period. But in the event that that extension is not granted, then I think it is imperative that the council would get a consultation response out without delay. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Josephine. Debbie?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I want to support this as well, but I'm just wondering, Alison, if it's too late to go out on the community newsletter as well. And there's also an easy read one. It has to be done online, I think, but there is an easier version, and if we can promote that maybe as well. So I think the original one people were finding difficult. So
certainly, Chair, if we can, we will. I'm just not sure if we're due to circulate, but certainly if we can, we will include it within it as well.
Would the proposer and seconder consider also in that whole thing, and maybe it falls outside of this consultation if it's so, so be it, but that we should be lobbying as well to do away with the time limit for the All-Ireland travel pass, so that you're at 65 before you can get that. We have health sort of implications and appointments and all sorts of things that you will need to go all over Ireland for. And certainly I don't see a reason at all why we should have to wait another 5 years, if not more now, to avail of that. So I'm not sure if that comes inside of it, but if you would be agreeable that we would incorporate that.
Maybe a separate letter.
Yeah. Alison's suggesting that it would be a separate letter. But
Just because the north-south components of a Chair, it might be cleaner to do it as a separate proposal if you were content.
But you're happy enough to propose,
Yeah.
Josephine, second that as well. Members, are we happy enough on both of those proposals? All agreed? Okay, thank you. Anything else on 2, 3, 4? Okay, 5. Debbie?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was I missed this meeting. I was at the launch of the Palestinian paintings by the London-based artist Zohar, who grew up in Israel, at the Stroll Arts in Omagh. The exhibition runs until this Saturday, and I would like to propose that that exhibition is brought to Enniskillen, if possible, please.
Okay, yeah, we'll certainly investigate if that can happen, Debbie.
Thank you.
Dermot?
Thanks, Chair, for letting me come in. I commented on this 5.1 of the correspondence, which is the bill regarding banning BDS and over the Public Body Overseas Matters Bill. Just to again restate that Sinn Féin is opposed to this bill. I think it's important also that we, and on behalf of the Sinn Féin team here, just extend our sympathy and solidarity with the people of Jenin in Palestine who suffered greatly at the hands of an Israeli attack. Several members of that community now are grieving the loss of people in their area. So let me just be clear what this bill is supposed to achieve. It's the shutting down of debate and anyone who wants to criticise the actions of the government of Israel. Israel is an apartheid state. It's been called that by numerous human rights groups, including Amnesty International. These are people who have done extensive research and they have come to that conclusion. So the British government must not succeed in the banning of solidarity with measures with the Palestinian people. The elected members of local authorities have the right to choose who they do business with, and especially to ensure public money for which they have oversight of are not spent supporting what is internationally recognised as an illegal occupation. International pressure is required to end Israeli aggression. This bill will send a message to Israel that it can continue to disregard international law. Rather than preferential trade treatment for Israel, governments and local authorities should hold the state of Israel to account. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Hammond? Anything else on 5? 6? Eddie?
Thanks, Chair. Just on the note that's from 5.4, I had requested a letter to the Western Trust. Now, I'm relatively new here, so I don't know how long these things generally take, but I would have thought 3 weeks was enough time, but maybe not.
No. Alison, I'll explain procedure.
Well, no, just to, so, sorry, Chair, the committee made a recommendation. So now that the minute has been formally adopted tonight, we will now action that. So there's no council powers devolved other than to the council meetings. So the recommendation will now follow on from this evening.
That's an answer, thank you.
So all decisions that are made in committee must be ratified at full council. It's the full council has the authority to make any decision. Okay, moving on. 6, anything else? And 7. Okay, thank you. Moving to correspondence. So then the royal visit to Enniskillen Castle.
Chair, just a letter of thanks from the King's Deputy Private Secretary, just recognising the work of council staff in advance and during the visit, just for information.
John?
Opposed to note the correspondence.
Okay. And have I a seconder? All right, thank you. Okay, our second piece of correspondence then.
So, Chair, as noted at the Policy and Resources Committee meeting, we did table the letter from the Trust and the report on the consultation at the committee, but it was recognised that members would have not had an opportunity to consider it in full. It was just released before the meeting. So hence we've included it on this evening's agenda in case there are any further actions that flow from it. So obviously, just as per Councillor Roof's query, we will progress that one specifically around pay, but there may be some other actions that members would wish us to follow up on.
Okay. Have I a proposer and seconder? The note. Gavin, thank you. And the seconder? Councillor Hawkes, thank you. Okay, moving on. 11.3.
Yeah, Chair, just lastly, just for information, really a notice of motion adopted by Newry Morning Down District Council. So normally we would just formally note that at a council meeting.
Okay, Josephine. And thank you.
Post note, thank you.
And seconder. Declan.
Other correspondence has been
Be dealt
dealt with.
with. Okay, so all the other correspondence has been dealt with. So then we are moving to our notice of motion. And that is being proposed by Adam and seconded by Garvin. So the floor is yours, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. Just this goes back to the last mandate. In particular, the exact date I originally proposed looking at this was in the Environmental Services meeting in October 2019, we've had quite a bit of change since then, including councillors and directors. I had proposed that the council investigate the potential of installing lighting for the path around the cottage lawn in Belcoo. And it's nearly 4 years later, and we have made very little progress for 4 years' time. And this has made many in the community in Belcoo very angry and disappointed with the council's lack of action on this. The very least the community want is an answer as to whether this is going to go ahead or not. And we as a corporate body should at least start to make some progress on it at this stage. And given the lack of action on the issue, and there has been some, and I do appreciate the efforts of the directors who are in place and what they have done in terms of community surveys and things like that. But this is to create further action and a bit of impetus into this. And for capital projects such as this, a business case is necessary before allowing funding to be committed. And therefore, we do need to proceed with a business case, in my opinion, and as well as that, as mentioned in the motion, any other associated work to be completed, which would allow for it to be considered in the upcoming estimates process. The path in the cottage lawn is an incredibly popular walking and running route in the village. It's used widely. People come into the village to use it as well. And they're very lucky there to have a few good sports clubs who also avail of it. And it is in the council's corporate plan that we will help people to improve their health and well-being by providing accessible facilities and opportunities for leisure. And the cottage lawn, if we go there tonight, there'll be no problems whatsoever, but we're in the middle of the summer and we have plenty of daylight. The issues really arise during those dark, cold winter months. And that's when lighting for this path would be a massive benefit to the community and create a really accessible and safe space for people to walk, run or exercise in whatever way they choose. And it doesn't need to be massively bright lighting. It needs to be enough that people can see their feet safely and know that, see their footing and make sure there's no trips or falls to come. You know, we provide lighting such as this in other areas, such as at the Forum in Enniskillen, which is used by walkers. Again, we've lit it because it's a popular walking route. And I see no reason why, if we've provided it in one place, we can't at least consider and develop a business case to provide it in another place, and this place being Belcoo. As I said, lighting should be of a low level, but it should be sufficient enough to improve safety and be implemented in the most environmentally friendly way possible, considering things like switching them off at times when they're not being used, similar to how the lights in the park, in the car park at the Round O were turned off at particular times at night. Again, being mindful of our environmental commitments that we've made. And this should be done with regular reports to council, as I'm sure it would be done, to allow any input from members and to consider the community needs, as there's different groups which will have different needs which will have to be considered in any design. I do think it would be great for Belcoo and would help people there to live a much more healthy life and exercise in a safe manner and a safe environment. And rural areas deserve equitable access to facilities, and this would enhance an already excellent and well-used rural council facility. And I would hope, provided everything comes through on time, it may or may not, but I hope it does, given this motion, that when it does come to the next estimates process, that the councillors in this chamber will try to include it in that. But that's further down the line, Chair. But that's all I have to say, and I'll propose the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Adam. And Gavin?
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm more than happy to second this motion with regards to the cottage lawn path lighting in Belcoo. I won't go into what all Councillor Gann has said in his piece, as he's really covered all the avenues there, but I do want to add that I 100% agree with all his statement. As the motion clearly states, this motion is all about people's health and well-being through the provision of accessible facilities, services and opportunities for local people to participate in leisure activities. The addition of this lighting around Cottage Lawn will only enhance the chances of people grasping the opportunity of getting out there for some exercise. This in turn will not only help their physical well-being and health, but will aid in their positive mental health as well. And having spoken to some residents that I know in the area, they advised me that they would very much welcome the addition of this lighting to the path. Councillor Gannon has been working a long time on this issue, and I have no hesitation in seconding this motion, and hope the members will agree with me and support the motion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Gavin. Duly proposed and seconded, and is in line with a decision that we took to advance the business case back, I appreciate, some time ago. I'm not expecting any dissent here, members, so am I getting agreement? Yeah, okay. Oh, yes, yes. Is there anything that you wish to add to that? No, I have enough there. Okay, that's as neat a motion proposed, seconded and passed as I've seen in many a years. So well done, Adam and Gavin. Okay, that brings us on then to any other business. And I have quite a number of things of any other business to deal with. But I suppose just as you've seen there with Seamus and Barry, if you have issues that you're bringing in under any other business, do look for a suitable juncture in the minutes or in whatever is coming up beforehand, and look to get them in there. It's no big issue of bringing them up under any other business, but we did run in previous mandates where we never got as far as any other business on many times. But try and get them in earlier. That way you make sure that your point is included. The Nolin is first, so.
Guru Morgat, Kahuli, thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose that the council buildings would be illuminated in the Pride Festival colours and also the Disability Pride colours at some dates, possible dates in the next couple of weeks. Pride is a call for equality against hatred and bigotry, a stand for solidarity and a positive celebration of the lives of the LGBTQIA+ community. We have had a successful Pride March in Omagh recently, and there are some upcoming Pride events taking place, including the Belfast Pride March this Saturday, 29th, and also locally at the Marble Arch Caves, an LGBTQIA+ event on the 19th and 20th of August. I think either of these dates could be appropriate, possibly. Also, July is Disability Pride Month. Disability Pride honours the history, achievements, experiences and struggles of the disabled community. It calls for increased visibility, awareness and support of disabled people. It stands with the victims of discrimination, any abuse, violence, and fights against societal barriers. It also celebrates and uplifts the disabled community as a positive identity and culture. Disability Pride recognises all different types of disabilities, including the physical, cognitive and intellectual, invisible, undiagnosed, psychosocial and sensory. So I'm thinking any of the few dates left in July may be appropriate. I'm going to show you the two flags of these movements because they are different. This is the Pride flag, and this is the Disability Pride flag. They are different, but obviously the colours are very similar. I'm proposing this as the Council's diversity ambassador, and I think it's important as a council, as is indeed, I think, of society, to show our support. It reminds everyone just how far we've come here in the North at tackling prejudice towards minority and different communities here, and how working together will bring further positive change and progress.
Okay, thanks, Nolene. Have you a seconder? Anne-Marie? Thank you. Tommy?
Good morning, Carly. Just maybe for information, us long-term councillors are aware we can only use one colour to light up our buildings. So I believe that this was done previously and that orange was the agreed colour to represent the LGBT community. So maybe the director could be informed me there, or if it could be checked. And just for information, we can only use one colour on our buildings. Good morning.
Okay, yeah, that seems to be it. Are we all in agreement? Okay. Thank you. Josephine?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to raise this matter under any other business. I would like to propose that this council would write to the Permanent Secretary at the Department of Health, to the Strategic Planning and Performance Group, SPPG, and to the Chair of the Eastern Federation Support Unit, voicing our concern and our opposition to proposed funding cuts to GP elective services. Chair, I and my GP colleagues were shocked, horrified, and almost disbelieving at the announcement that there was to be a 50% reduction in funding for GP elective services, and also there would be a total removal of funding for GP-delivered vasectomy services. Members may be aware that for the past number of years, under the auspices of the GP federations, that GPs have been delivering a number of specialist services, including services in minor surgery, in vasectomy, in dermatology, in gynecology, and in family planning. And this service is greatly valued by our patients. We have received feedback from almost 1,000 patients expressing their satisfaction at the level of services provided by GPs. It was introduced as an initiative, Chair, to encourage GPs with special interests to practice their special interest, whether it be in surgery, dermatology, or other specialties, to allow them to deliver better services for patients and to allow them to diversify their practice. This is a very valuable service. GP practices have invested in extra administrative and other staff to provide these services. The Western GP Federation has recently trained 9 practitioners in vasectomy, and members may note that there currently is no funded vasectomy service through the Western Trust. This is a devastating blow, not only for GPs, but also for our patients. We're aware of the huge waiting times for these services delivered in secondary care, and the reduction in funding for these services will almost certainly lengthen waiting times. So, Chair, I make that proposal, and I hope that I can get the support of Council in that proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Josephine. Eddie?
Thanks, Chair. Again, I echo what Councillor Deehan has said on the matter. It's kind of been sprung upon GP surgeries over the past few days. Some of those services are vital, and many patients avail of them where they would instead be sitting on waiting lists in secondary care. So I'm not even sure about the validity of the savings, whether there's actually going to be savings long term. Instead, people are just going to move to other waiting lists that may actually be long term more expensive. It also helps avail of or prevents the certain quirks of general practice in Northern Ireland, that we generally have smaller GP surgeries, and as a result, not every GP can specialise in everything. So having these sorts of services allow patients who maybe don't have a dermatology specialist in their GP surgery to avail of the service in a timely fashion locally. So I second Councillor Deehan has said. I believe this would be a crazy reduction in funding at a time really when primary care should actually be seeing an increase in funding to try and prevent people from ending up in secondary care.
Couldn't agree more. Are we all agreed, members? Okay, thank you. And Alan?
Thank you, Chair. Mine is a flooding problem that occurred in the early hours of Sunday morning as a result of the heavy rainfall. And that was in the Fintna location, where a lady had to be rescued from her home in the early hours of the morning through the bedroom window. A pretty frightening experience. The water was somewhere in the region of about 2 foot deep in her, throughout the ground floor of her home. When I spoke to her last evening, she was still pretty, upset, really upset. Maybe this same flooding occurred when our late mum was alive. I think it was 7 years ago, and I was there at that time. And at that stage, I had a seat on the riverboard, and great emphasis was put on the exploration of reducing the flow of water coming through Fintna town itself. But I don't know, perhaps that has died a natural death. And I would like that we would write to the Rivers Agency once again and ask them to look at the situation, at what stage that's at, because this is a terrible situation that this lady finds herself in. The river is a very short distance from our back door. And at the front door, at the front of our residence, then the main Oma Fintna Tatty Road runs by, and it's about, I suppose, about a metre higher than our residence, and there's a tendency for a lot of surface water to run in there. I have to say that when I was there, and she took me down to show me the river itself, and there's 4, I think I'm right in referring to them as Leilandi trees, and they'll be somewhere in the region of about 30 to 40 foot tall. And we were there just beside the trees, looking into the river. And after that, she had calmed down a little, and we were almost ready to break up our conversation. There was a cracking noise, and lo and behold, one of the trees fell just at our feet and took the spouting clean off our home while we were standing there. And lucky, so lucky, that it was only just the light branches that brushed down past the taillights of our car. She finds herself in a very difficult position, and she did have an officer from council out yesterday morning to examine her case. This is a very worthy case, and perhaps maybe we need councillors need to have a word with the planners to see if indeed some resolution could be found for allowing her to raise her house up to alleviate this situation.
Yeah,
but on the
you're crossing over into different territory here now. Stick to the.
But on the outset, we would want to raise this with the Rivers Agency again to make sure that this is really looked into.
Okay, that's fair enough. Glenn?
Caherly, you perhaps don't want to open this up in AOB, but I just wanted to come in really and say that a number of years back, when I was chair of the Legacy Council Planning Committee, there was an interagency meeting looking at flooding, and at that time, I suppose you don't expect these events to happen that often, but if they happen once or twice, it's too often, and I suppose I'd like to support Councillor Rainey's proposal, and maybe that there would be an update on the modelling that is ongoing, that you assume is ongoing, but certainly was talked a lot about then, about what can be done, because we know that flooding, you get flooded in parts of Fintona that Councillor Rainey's talked about with not a lot of rain, because it's the nature of rivers and the whole water infrastructure, I suppose. So that modelling is important, and it affects Fintona, but it also affects further down in Oma and everywhere else, and it's all connected. So maybe if we could have an update, or if Rivers Agency could be invited back to give an update or on that, or a follow up on that sort of interagency focus on the issue of flooding. Thank you, Chairman.
So that, I'm sure, Alan, you're happy enough that's included, and you're happy to second, Glenn? Okay, are we all agreed, members? Okay, thank you. Anne-Marie, away you go.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to request that the following are recognised for recent significant achievements. Firstly, two Oma tennis players, Donna McSorley and Nikki Hawkes, who have recently represented Ireland and Turkey at the 2023 ITF World Tennis Masters. Nikki won 4 out of 5 of her matches, and Donna was captain of the Irish ladies 40s team. And again, they've done us proud, and it'd be great to recognise these achievements. The other group I would like to recognise at a chair's reception would be Clannabogan Drama Circle. This group has performed Wake in the West this year in memory of their former director and founding member, Tommy Mullen, who had recently lost his battle with pancreatic cancer. And they performed at 2 festivals, Newton Stewart, Lisleigh, and they won 3 awards, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, and an Audience Award, along with numerous nominations. They performed to huge audiences in St Joseph's Hall, the Alley in Strabane, and Ardone and Enniskillen. And their last performance, they donated all the profits of 4,500 to the Northern Ireland Pancreatic Cancer group. So on behalf of the Mullen family, so I'd be delighted to propose that each group receive recognition from Council for their efforts by inviting them to a Council reception, subject to the necessary application being submitted. But good to acknowledge such great achievements in our community.
And just to clarify, that's chair's reception.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah.
Have we a seconder? Shirley? Okay. All agreed, members? Thank you. Anne-Marie?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I feel this issue is of great importance, and Alison's going to look at me now because I did raise it with you a few weeks ago. And it's one of the people out in Ruski and Gorchin are quite passionate about. It's to do with the footbridges. And there is 3 footbridges which has been constructed over 100 years ago. There's really no title deeds. Nobody knows who owns them. But they've been used for access for people of townlands getting from one area to another, where it's quite steep valleys, by anglers, by local residents, by hill walkers. There's one in particular that was to Ruski Chapel. Another one was to go from one area to the Church of Ireland on the other side and to a local Lecky primary school. It's been raised with myself since I became a councillor, just that the historical value and the use that they have been used. I was unsure where to go, so I emailed Alison, and I also contacted Seamus Cullinan from Locke's agency, who everybody says that is not in their remit for coverage of the structures. The footpaths, there's 3. There's one at Burnenver on the lower Garda Cashel Road. There's one up further up the Garda Cashel Road, which crosses over the Owen-Calloo River, and it's beside Lecken School and at the Church of Ireland church there as well. It's passable. It's in good condition. You can walk on it, and anglers continue to use it now, and so does the locals. And then there's one out in Glenelly, which is the Strabane Derry City Council, but it's in a bad state of repair. I'd like to propose that that our council, FODC, would take this on. We have a good track record in sport and leisure. we always have a good team, and the head of Alison have gone forward with great activities. And the Gorchin Glens, as we know, it has been recently opened up, and it's attracting huge numbers and families and walkers. We have tours coming, and they have beautiful walking tracks. As you go down to the Gorchin, I feel that this would be a huge addition to it. They are, sorry, as I said, just they're going for Risky Chapel to the school. And we are on, where those are actually based, we're in the gateway to the Sperrins. Deep valleys, and it is in an area of outstanding natural beauty. So just as I said before, I propose that us as a council could take responsibility of the footbridges under a tourism remit. I believe that they would make a good funding strategy under some tranche coming forward, maybe peace. I know there's a lot of work to be done with the landowners, and one in particular is quite keen, the landowner. There is a right of way off a road across a ford in a river, and they're more than happy to get that one up and running. They are a unique historical feature, would add a huge tourism boost to the area, and it's there to promote walking, health, and would be a huge asset to the local community. And thank you very much. That's my proposal.
Okay, Alison.
Chair, no, thank you. And as Councillor Fitzgerald has indicated, she'd mentioned this to me before. I think if Councillor Fitzgerald is content, Chair, maybe there's a couple of aspects of this that we could look at. I think it's important we put on the record the structures in question. We have actually reviewed these. They aren't the council structures. They're in private ownership, and it's not something that we can take responsibility for. And I would share the concerns regarding the safety of these structures. But I do think there is scope around looking at the mapping of the paths and the associated linkages back, and in the wider consideration of the links down from Gorchin into the village, Risky and beyond. So maybe if Councillor Fitzgerald was content in the first instance, what I'd suggest, very happy that we would do an informal meeting with the relevant landowners, with a couple of the other maybe interested funding partners, to see what could be done in the context of a funding bid. But I do think it's important the landowners in question need to make the bridge structures safe, or to close those off from access. And we couldn't take that legal responsibility on. But I think there is scope around paths and access as to how that part of Gorchin and the valleys can be opened. If content with that approach.
And Maria, are you happy enough there?
Yes, I'm happy enough to go that at the start, and then we'll proceed onwards. But I know the landowners are quite keen, you know what I mean? So I'll go back to them and possibly maybe get a discussion. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And just have we a seconder for that goes Russian? Okay. Are we all agreed, members? Okay, so that'll be investigated. Okay, Garvin.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to raise this issue regarding the Inniscale Intelligence Club. A few members have been in contact regarding them attempting to do some work on their courts. The club are trying to do work on the courts, but the courts themselves are owned by EA, and therefore they need permission to do anything, and EA haven't been responding of late with them. So I would propose we write the EA asset management team to ask that they engage with the club and consider what financial contribution they could give to any work they wish to undertake. And could I also propose that a member of the council team reach out to the club and see if there's any opportunities for funding they could avail of? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, have you a seconder, Gavin? Josephine? Okay, members, are we all agreed? Adam?
Just to declare an interest as a member of the club, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Otherwise, we're all agreed. Thank you. Okay, Victor?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in on this important issue for the people of Erne East and certainly around the Brookborough area. I was approached yesterday by an individual to be informed that the proposed takeover of Brookborough Surgery and Tempo, that the prospective group that was taking it over has since pulled out. There is certainly quite a bit of uncertainty now going forward. The individual that spoke to me basically said that the surgery were looking at approaching at this stage, they were looking at approaching the trust, but taking it over in the same sort of vein as happened in Dromore and Trillick. So that's obviously going to be an option for them. I did raise it today with her in our meeting with the trust, but the trust at this time, certainly what they were saying, they were not aware that this was going to happen. So I think it's something we need to certainly maybe contact the SPPG and try to get an update to see what exactly is going on, because obviously with the uncertainty that we had around the Lisnaskea surgery in recent years, and the fact that it's only now basically hopefully got the new GPs in place, to have it so close to Lisnaskea, like Brookborough is only 5 miles, Tempo is only 8 miles away, so to have it another surgery, 2 surgeries potentially closing is obviously going to cause a lot of concern in the Brookborough Tempo areas, because there are 2 surgeries that are well used. So I would like to make that as a proposal that we contact the SPPG and get an update from them to what exactly is happening there. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Victor. Seamus?
Thank you, and thanks to Victor for raising this very important issue. It's in my local village, Brookborough, so it's very concerning. It's not so long ago from I used to be here as a patient of Maple Healthcare Group. I used to be hearing all the good stories that was coming out from the Brookborough surgery, how quick you could access a doctor. Everything was very positive just a few years ago. Things seems to have happened very quickly as far as this surgery is concerned. So it's a wake-up call to all people in the Fermanagh and Nome area that these things can happen, develop very quickly. And I remember when we met with the GP group, they were saying that they were maybe looking about new ways of running GP surgeries and new ways of providing it. I am hopeful, or I would hope that they would carry on with this pretty urgently, because I think the model that there is now is slowly but surely falling apart. I want to second Victor's proposal, but I also want to inquire. A number of months ago in the old mandate, I made a proposal about a council-led brainstorming conference, or a number of meetings with healthcare professionals, with unions, with anyone that is interested in trying to come up with solutions to the problems that we're going through at the minute. And I would just like an update on how that is progressing, and that, because as every day goes past, it seems to get more urgent. And this, what Victor's after saying there, just emphasises just how urgent it is. And a lot of people in Brookborough and Tempo will be very, very annoyed and stressed about this news. So I think we need to get action on this ASAP. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, thank you. Just in relation, Councillor Green, the motion, we have the initial research undertaken and we have facilitators lined up. We hope to have dates confirmed. Their view was that we would be better waiting until after the summer, but we should have dates confirmed for early September and beyond, and we'll be reporting the final detail of that in at the first meetings in September. But I'll certainly liaise with members in advance.
Okay, thanks, Alison. Are we all agreed, members? Okay, thank you. Alison has
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair, we have received the 3 different expressions or requests that the Council would issue letters of support. So I'll just list the projects, the applicants in question. In each case, there is no financial requirement or commitment for the council. Full grant and other funding is in place. The first is from Tyrone GAA, and it's to go with the support of an application to the Heritage Lottery Fund for the development of an archive at Garvaghey. The second is from Invest Northern Ireland, and it's for a funding application for Innovate UK, and it's to develop local industrial decarbonisation plans, one for each of the 11 council areas. And finally, for Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful, it's for an environmental communications campaign to the National Lottery. So it's really just in each case to confirm the council's support for the projects, no commitments required. And Chair, if members were content with those, it is possible, particularly with lottery and other funds, that we may receive some requests over the summer or the month of August. So if members were content that we would proceed to issue letters of support where the projects in question did not conflict with any council policies or compete with our own projects and didn't require any financial commitment on behalf of the council, and we would obviously report those to you in September should any be received over the coming weeks.
Josephine?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alison, for that briefing. I'm happy to propose accordingly, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And John?
Yeah, I'm happy to second. I mean, anything that's going to bring benefit to our community and not cost us any money is to be only
Most
commended.
welcome. Yes, indeed. Are we all agreed, members? Okay, thank you. And thank you all for that. We're going to move on to part 2 now, is confidential business. And to, yes, can we have a proposal? Roy and Paul, thank you. We're back online. Okay, Alison?
Thank you very much, Chair. While in committee, the Council confirmed and signed the confidential minutes of the Council meeting held on the 3rd of July, and there were no matters arising, and also considered the confidential report of the Regeneration and Community Committee and the Policy and Resources Committee meetings, and considered matters arising. No matters arising were raised, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Alison. And proposed and second, Josephine and Garvin. Okay, thank you. And that brings the meeting to an end. So just want to wish you a safe and enjoyable rest of the summer. And we'll see you all back on the 5th of September in Omagh, if not before. And to thank all the officers and all the staff for their help. Thank you.